Hey everybody, Dr. Rob Silverman here, Amazon best-selling author of Inside Out Health, A Revolutionary Approach to Your Body. Today, I want to thank you all for taking some time and listening to the gut-to-joint connection. The gut, we've talked so much about gut health in general and gut to brain, which is without question a conversation piece right now, but a lot of people don't realize the underlying gut to joint connection. So gut health. Everybody has to be concerned about gut health. 80% of your immune cells are in your gut. It's where your macro and micronutrients are absorbed. Most people know that gut health poses an issue because they get gas and bloating after they eat. In addition, if they have something wrong with their brain, they'll usually get a little brain fog. Most people don't attribute a lot of joint pain or chronic pain back to the gut, and maybe they should start to do so because the gut has an impact on your joints. So when your gut is leaky, so when I talk about it being leaky, your gut is what we call a semi-permeable membrane. The small intestine is a single layer membrane, but it's still semi-permeable. Food, nutrients, and water are all able to pass through it. The problem is when it becomes too permeable, where the layer collapses or the junctions, what we call tight junctions, open up, and we refer to this as leaky. Things are passing through it that shouldn't, like undigested food particles, bacteria, candida, and something called LPS, lipopolysaccharide. It's an endotoxin. This LPS actually is on the inside of the intestinal wall, on the outer part of the membrane, and when this is expressed, it usually leads you down a path of systemic inflammation. When you have this leaky gut and this LPS expression, it's very common to have a release of something that are called cytokines. Cytokines are inflammatory markers that release interleukins. They actually stimulate localized and systemic inflammation. So people who have joint problems like osteoarthritis usually is a systemic and or localized issue. So your gut releasing these cytokines can lead you down a path of having joint pain. In addition, when your gut is too permeable or there's too much of what we call LPS expression, you also get the release of matrix metalloproteinases. These matrix metalloproteinases are your body's own proteolytic enzymes that are released at the time of injury, stomach injury, and they float around and eat, actually, they're like digestive enzymes. They eat something called fibrocartilage. Your discs are made up of fibrocartilage. In addition, it eats certain specific structures like in your shoulder. So when your gut is compromised, it leads you down a path of both spinal, that's a joint, and extremity joint injury. So we go in here and we look at gut health. What impacts gut health? Well, there's a lot of things that can damage gut health. Some of the big markers or the big things you would look at right away would clearly be gluten. Gluten means glue. It sticks to your intestinal tract. It is extremely ruinous to gut overall health. So everybody should avoid gluten. Dairy. Dairy is another one. I know a lot of people are not happy when I say that because people love cheese. Alternative milks are a good option. Doesn't seem to be a problem. People giving up cheese appears to be a big problem. But dairy is a very high allergy food. It is also very deleterious to gut health. So gluten, dairy, processed foods, too much sugar. In addition, antibiotics. Antibiotics are what we call carpet bombers. They just damage all the bacteria. When they damage and kill all the bacteria, all that bacteria is damaged. Your intestinal lining has no communication, no protection. And with that being said, you also have too much permeability in your gut area. Supplements to gut health. Well, we want good supplements, but the problem is there are a lot of supplements that people eat, like in food supplements, that negatively impact gut health. Emulsifiers, food colorings. In addition to food colorings, food gums, all very damaging to overall gut health. When your gut is damaged, you also have, once again, this joint damage. Now, most people think that you have to have like stomach symptoms to understand that you have a problem with stomach. That's typically leaky gut. There's something called silent leaky gut. Silent leaky gut speaks more to the idea of joint pain and chronic pain than necessarily gut upset or digestive issues. Any one of these type of symptoms, joint pain, can be attributed to the gut, as the gut can be a contributor. So unfortunately, antibiotics also can impact negatively bone health. And they do so, again, by carpet bombing and changing the inhabitants in the structure inside the intestinal tract. It elevates your ability to have inflammation in your gut, and it also sends a signal for you to release more what we call osteoclasts. There's osteoblasts and osteoclasts. Osteoblasts enable you to grow bone. Osteoclasts break bone down. So when you have this increase from leaky gut in osteoclasts, you now have negative impact and you're now having disadvantages in bone health. NSAIDs, non-steroid anti-inflammatories, Aleve, Advil, ibuprofen, all no buenos. They do decrease pain, but they impair healing. They don't allow for muscle cartilage synthesis, bad for any joint. They don't allow for soft tissue to heal. They don't allow for cartilage to heal. So all really bad for joint, in addition to actually damaging tight junctions both in your gut and in your brain. So it is without question perpetuating that vicious cycle because it's masking the pain but are not allowing for healing, so people want to take more. So your NSAIDs are without a question a no bueno. So if you were in pain, some nutraceuticals that I would recommend would be turmeric, pro-resolving mediators, omega-3 fatty acids, boswellia, ginger. Those would be all things that I would strongly recommend that will naturally mask some of the pain. NSAIDs may not work immediately, but they're going to work over a duration of time. So nutraceuticals do decrease pain, but they also promote healing. Intestinal permeability. We've talked about intestinal permeability earlier in this Facebook Live. When you get too much intestinal permeability, you're obviously leading yourself down a path of leaky gut. Some of the other things that can cause or that occur from intestinal permeability are environmental triggers. So some of these environmental triggers, interestingly enough, are things that you can eat, like a BPA. They're in paper. Phthalates, which are in plastic. So these different environmental, we're talking environmental things that you touch, can also cause and damage leaky gut. In addition to environmental triggers, think about all the pesticides that are used. Actually, America uses, as according to a study in 2012, 3.63 billion different pesticides in our soils. So, of course, I always recommend organic food, organic coffee, because all these pesticides are very damaging to our overall health. Not only damaging to our health, they're also damaging to our health because they damage our gut and make our intestines too permeable. Environmental triggers. I like to speak also about the environment going inside your gut. What I spoke about earlier was LPS. We could all test for lipopolysaccharides. We can test for these LPS with other what we call antibodies or immunoglobulins. Your body's immune system releasing specific objects to enable you to have an immune response and fight it off. And those those immunoglobulins would be IgA, IgM, and IgG. So there's specific blood tests that test for LPS, IgA, IgM, and IgG. In addition, there's something in your gut environment called cytolethal distending toxins. Your LPS holds gram-negative bacteria on the inside of your intestinal tract, and when that LPS comes through the damaged intestinal tract, gram-negative bacteria is expressed, so is cytolethal distending toxin. Cytolethal distending toxins, it says it, the name says it's lethal, and a toxin is 11 times more damaging to the body than LPS. That's another marker that we can test for. If anybody's interested where they can get the markers, just let me know in the bottom in the comment section, and I will share where you can get those lab tests from. In addition, you get these environmental triggers. Ultimately, you're going to lead yourself to what we call systemic inflammation. So we have these objects inside our gut that are supposed to stay inside our gut. Unfortunately, when our gut becomes leaky, they come out. And as I just alluded to earlier, you now have an antigen antibody. Antigen is the object that passes the gut. The antibodies are those immunoglobulins that are coming in and they're attacking. With them attacking, and you're getting that systemic inflammation, they're attacking right there, they're attacking, and that is a localized inflammation. As it travels through your bloodstream, because when it passes your gut, goes into your bloodstream, you now get systemic inflammation. And how do you get joint tissue reactivity? Well, one, you have systemic inflammation, and in addition to that, most joint arthritises are autoimmune. So when you have this antigen antibody attack going on, at some point your immune system gets a little confused and overworked and starts looking at structures in your body like your knee, your back, and your shoulder as very similar to what has just passed your gut, that antigen, and we call that molecular mimicry. The protein sequence of what has passed your gut is very similar to your joint. That protein sequence is kind of like a zip code. So where we are right here today in White Plains is 10605. Have you ever got mail that was mixed up? 10606, 10604. So that confusion in that zip code, that protein sequence, is what leads you down a path of your body attacking the joint, hence the idea of joint tissue reactivity. So leaky gut can lead you down a path of autoimmunity at the joints, which everybody knows as rheumatoid arthritis, and most people don't realize is also osteoarthritis. So your gut being compromised can cause a multitude of issues at different levels, passing through the bloodstream and your body attacking itself. So you always want to keep your gut in pristine condition, not just for overall health, not for just gut to joint health, but also gut to brain health. A little aside before I tell you how to fix this all is there's a direct link between gut bacteria and successful joint replacement. The study showed that if you had healthy gut bacteria, you responded much better to joint replacement. Whereas if you had a lot of bad bacteria, weren't taking your probiotics, weren't taking care of your gut, you had a very bad response to joint replacement. And that was in the knee and the hips. So do we have any shout outs or anything? Or we have a quiet day. It's a quiet Tuesday here in New York. Part 2, we're going to come up with some answers, some things that are going to be in my upcoming book in 2020, my 7R program. But as you know, right now, there's a direct gut to joint connection. Everybody needs to take care of their gut to keep their joints happy. So next time you go to a chiropractor, remember the good chiropractor who takes functional movement and functional medicine really looks at the mechanical and the biochemical to really understand the gut to joint connection. Dr. Rob, always yours in health.